Hello and welcome to this edition of Talking to Introverts. I'm Denise Oliver and my co-host is,
Hello, I'm Sami Blackford.
and we both identify as introverts. And in this particular episode, dare I say it, our first ever Talking to Introverts, we're actually going to come to you and talk about why we're starting this podcast and what being an introvert in this world means to both of us. So, Sami,
So one of
what?
the things for me with like this podcast is because you and I have some amazing conversations. I'm just like everybody should listen to these, just blowing our own trumpets. Why not? Um, and also like the word introvert seems to be being used more and more now. And for me, I kind of want to reframe what being an introvert is, because quite often it's thought of as you're shy, you're quiet, you're lacking confidence, maybe you're cold or standoffish, and all of those things kind of get linked with being an introvert, where, no, I'm not saying introverts are not that. They can be that as well, but it's not a natural part of being an introvert. So for me, that's one of the drivers for this.
I have to say, I've met many extroverts who lack confidence, who are
Yeah.
cold in nature. So that's not what defines who we are. So what's your personal experience of being an introvert? What is that for you?
Um, well, all of those things that I just said, like I have been described as all of those things at one point or another in my life. And quite often, it took me a long time to kind of understand what it was, because like people would say like I was quite cold and like um didn't get involved in like conversations and stuff, and I was shy and everything. And for a long time I did identify with shyness because I didn't know what else it was. Um, so for me now, having come to learn more about myself and about what it's like to be an introvert, that shows up as enjoying quiet time, shall we say. So like I like being with people when I like being with people. I also like not being with people. Um, and I remember I was reading a book and I can't remember what it was called, but it was about like the differences between extroverts and introverts. And there was a really good description that I just thought, yes, that's what it is. And for me, it was like extroverts recharge their batteries being around people. Introverts recharge their batteries being alone. I was like, yes, that's what it is. I so see that.
Yeah, completely. I agree with you. Um, for me, the I didn't understand that. I don't think it was talked about. I don't think
Yeah.
people really talked about introverts and extroverts. I think extroverts got talked about. I think the fact that people who put their hands up to everything and jumped in and were loud and crazy and would dance on tables, that's seen as the thing to be. But you and I both know that that's not, it doesn't work for us.
No.
And I have tried that in the past. Um, the majority of my friends are extroverts. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be able to be around people 24/7. My my longest standing best buddy, Sarah, who's now in New Zealand, out and out extrovert, just loves to get up in the morning. So over in New Zealand, she's up at like 5:30, off to the gym, doing all of that, chatting to everyone she meets. Um, loves to go on long rambles with a group and all of that. And I can feel it in my chest, my heart sinking at the thought of the number of people she must interact with throughout the day. And I am like the total opposite. I am so introverted to her. I I learned about being an introvert a few years back now, and it was the book Quiet by Susan Cain. If you I think you might identify as an introvert, or if you know you're an extrovert, I highly recommend you read this book. It took her 10 years to write this book while she researched and spoke to people. She's spoken to big business people, the Fortune 500 people. She's talked to people way at the top of their league to ask if how they identify with what they are. And a lot of them don't know. They don't know. So if you're unsure, because there's a whole range, there's like super introverted and there's super extroverted, and then there's us somewhere along that spectrum. And I can jump knowing I need to be introverted, i.e. spend time on my own, because I'm going to have to be extroverted at some point, more extroverted. I'm going to have to be out there. I'm going to have to voice opinions and not be quiet. You can't be a woman in business and be quiet all the time. It doesn't work
No.
like that. Where was I? I've completely forgotten. So back to Susan Cain and her book Quiet. When I read that, that was like an all-nighter for me. Just started reading it and couldn't put it down. It made so much sense. It was one of those massive pieces in the jigsaw. It's like, oh, I'm not shy. When I'm looking at someone and they see a blank expression, I'm thinking before I then jump in. But an extrovert's already spoken over me and spoken for me without giving me the opportunity to form the thought that works for me. And it was really quite annoying back in the day. But now I'm just like, oh, you're just extrovert. It's fine. I'm not going to attempt to even contribute to this conversation because we're so taught that to be constantly talking is the right way to be. And what if it's not? What if it's not?
Yeah. And like with you saying that people might be unsure or not know if they're an introvert or not, and I think that's really common because the extrovert is so like the go-to what you should be sort of thing. I think a lot of us as introverts become really good at wearing the mask of an extrovert and, being the loud one and being, like at parties and, social things and, doing all of that kind of stuff. But then, get into bed at the end of the day, like, why am I so exhausted?
Yeah.
And I know for me, like you mentioned about being in business, I know for me, I've had times in my business life where I've just got to that point where it's like I have nothing more to give. Like I'm completely burnt out. Um, because I've been trying to do like the extrovert thing in business. And being in business is like a whole other topic that we could talk about.
We'll
Never
come back to that
cover it.
another day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
really. So I more and more people who are that do a lot of social media are coming out and identifying as introverts. And one of the guys that I like to listen to is Simon Sinek. And he has this, you can find this on YouTube. I saw it. And it's only a couple of minutes long. He's being interviewed. He's around the table. There's four of them, four chaps around this table. And it's just a clip of him talking about what life is like as an introvert for him. So he describes it as you wake up in the morning and you've got a handful of introvert coins. And every time you're in a meeting, you're having an interaction, you're spending a coin. So you have to be careful how many interactions you have as an introvert because the coin represents your energy. So you become energy depleted. So if you're on the go all the time and it's meeting after meeting after meeting, or you're on a Zoom, you're on a phone, you're talking a lot, you're having a lot of interaction, you spend your coins pretty quickly. And you wonder why you're having that slump in the afternoon. And you're just done. You don't have that energy anymore. An extrovert can wake up with nothing. Yay, I'm an extrovert. Who can I speak to now? First off, first thing they do is they want to speak to someone. And I can remember going on holidays with my friend Sarah, who talks in her sleep. And it's like they genuinely, this is what fuels them. First thing she does, opens her eyes, morning. And it's like, I might not even be awake. But she wakes me up because she has to say something. It's just like, oh, good grief. What sort of a day are we going to have? But we've known each other so long that I can say to her, do you mind, say we stay in an hotel, are you going to go for a swim or something? And she's like, yeah, I could do that, couldn't I? Yeah, because I need like, at least half an hour on my own. She's like, great. And then she comes back and she's chat about the temperature of the water and the guy who's cleaning the pool and the this and the that. And, not many people were there. I had to go and look for someone to have a chat with. Did you? Yeah. Whereas I'd be like, oh, there's no one here. Great.
Yeah,
That would be me. But back to
yeah.
Simon Sinek, that's how he described it, having these coins of energy. And introverts expend their energy and then need alone time to recharge. An extrovert gathers their energy throughout the day, and
Mm.
they're the ones off partying like it's, no big deal after a full day's work, or they're off to the gym, or they're off to do XYZ.
Yeah.
So I think for me, what I would say to anyone listening to this who's wondering whether they are or aren't, just become aware of where you spend your energy. How does that work for you? And
Mm.
Simon Sinek says that going to parties and things, he said he's the guy that, say it's a family gathering, that will go and say, I'll look after the barbecue if you like. Because the only interaction you get as the guy looking after the barbecue is how much food do you want on your plate?
Yeah.
Handed in with a beer. You get left to do it because actually it's not the job a lot of people want to do. But it
Mhm.
works for him because he can use his observational skills. He can watch what's going on, and that fuels him. He doesn't need to be told what's happening with people. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Mm.
And I just wonder how many people over the years have just wondered what's wrong with them when they can't keep up with their extrovert friends. What's
Yeah.
wrong with me? And I think some people mistake being introverted for being depressed.
I think because going back to what we've been talking about, like needing time on your own and needing time to recharge and stuff, I I I was going to say I used to, but I still do sometimes, is like question my laziness. Is like, am I being lazy now? And I think that can be like linked to what you were just saying about it can be mistaken for depression. I think it can easily be mistaken for laziness as well. Like you haven't got the motivation to keep going and all of that kind of stuff. And I think for me, a big part of that was just allowing myself to be what I am. And if I need to rest, to rest. Um, yeah. And I think we've talked about like all the negative sides of not, what can be seen as negative sides of being an introvert, but also we have a lot of like innate skills as well and qualities, like you were saying about like that observation. We are very like people watching is the best activity ever. We are very good at like observing and kind of taking I'm going to say the temperature of a situation, like um, like energetics wise, if we want to say it in that way, of like the different relationships between like a group of people and see like what's going on and stuff. And we are very good listeners, which sometimes can be taken advantage of. Um, but yeah, we have lots of good skills as well.
I'm going to give you an example of one of the ways in which I now use my introversion. So, say I'm going to a restaurant, and again, an incident with Sarah came to mind. My husband's way more extrovert than I am. I will position the extrovert so they can see the room because that's what they require. They need
Mm,
to know what's going on. And it's not observation like I would do in a quiet observation way. They need to comment.
yeah.
If I put my husband facing a wall and I can see the room, he expects me to tell him what's going on. Because he needs to be fed that information. It's not enough to focus on his food or on me. And that's just the difference between us.
Mm,
So if I put my friend or whoever facing outwards into the room, then I can watch their faces darting around the place, and then the comments come. But I can put my whole focus, which is what I'm better at doing, on them.
Mm.
And often when it comes to like a bigger family party, I like to be on the end of a table. I don't want to be in the middle. I'm not the comedian. I'm not the joker. I'm not the one who wants to have the attention of the room on me. So I'll sit quietly towards the end. But I know what everyone's saying and doing. I just don't have a need to be the voice for the room.
Mm.
Whereas an extrovert, that's what they absolutely need that. That's so crucial for them. And so I would say that as an introvert, you can often you can be labeled. So, like you've said, you're the quiet one, you're the shy one. You can actually be pushed to the edges of your community, your friendship groups, because they don't understand you. But you understand you, and then you learn how to work that. So, do you notice there's someone in your friendship group that really could do with being listened to about something? They keep commenting on something, but they're not telling the whole truth. Then that's where you can step in and just go, hey, I'm here to listen. You don't want to be taken advantage of. Don't let people walk all over you. But often we have listening skills above and beyond. And it's just important to recognize that. And don't keep trying to make yourself more extrovert.
Mm.
I have noticed over the years now that that whole thing of thinking, but my face is blank, like I'm bored, that resting bored face, and there's another word people use. I'm just thinking. But what I
Mm.
recognized is that extroverts like you to smile while you're thinking. So then you're still connecting in some way with them. So I've learned to put a smile on my face whilst I'm thinking, so that they can see that I'm connected with them, because they don't understand a face that doesn't appear to be registering anything. They don't seem to get that. It's been my experience, and I think it's the experience of others as well. But once I do open my mouth, I've actually given it consideration. I don't have a need to voice every single thought that I have.
Mm.
And that's because that's exhausting as well. I don't know how extroverts do it. And that's how I know I'm not one.
Yeah. I think on that, it's like I as you're saying that, I recognize I do that as well, that blank kind of like the cogs are turning, like there's things happening up there, but it's like the face is like completely blank. And I actually do the things like, and I think I do actually use words, the cogs are turning, give it a minute.
Yeah,
Because you do have to kind of do that thing, don't you? Because like my partner also is much more extroverted than I am, and he will talk 10 to the dozen. And then like he stops for my input, and then he's like, do I need to talk more? Do I? I'm like, no, just give me a minute. The cogs are turning. I'll be with you. Um, and it is little things like that, which kind of feels like you have to um kind of make it easier for the other person. It's like you're doing an extra bit of work, but really it's making it easier for you as well.
it's a good job we're not all the same. That's what I
It
say.
is, isn't it?
But
And
I do
yeah,
think that learning more about what makes you as an individual tick is important, and recognizing introversion was me, and that it's not all doom and gloom. We have qualities above and beyond an extroverts, and they have qualities above and beyond us, and
mm,
it's as simple as that. And it's just that recognizing it. And as I say, it was a huge piece of my jigsaw.
yeah,
I think the book came out in 2012. And you can find Susan Cain talking about what it was like to be an introvert on YouTube. And there's this lovely clip of her is talking about, because she's American, so going off to summer school, coming from a family of introverts where their evenings were spent, cuddled up reading. That's what they did. And she took a big bag of books with her to summer school, thinking that everyone would be sat around reading. And she got the biggest shock of her life when she was expected to join in numerous activities with lots of people, and she didn't understand it because that's not how she'd been raised.
mm,
Um, obviously she does now, and she admits to being married to an extrovert, and she thinks that introverts and extroverts come together more so than the other way round, i.e. two introverts or two
Mm.
extroverts. And she said, because then you can learn from each other. And she's done a huge amount. Honestly, she's well worth listening to if you don't want to read the book, which is
Mm.
very in depth actually, and quite technical in parts, I would say.
Yeah. Well, something I found quite reassuring perhaps is like when I've looked into like what it is to be an introvert and like all the not all of the research around it, but some of the research around it, what I found quite interesting is like it's not a learnt behavior.
No,
It's like it's DNA based. It's like coded into your DNA, which I just find is quite fascinating, but also reassuring that it's not something that needs to be fixed.
absolutely.
It's just, how you're built. And like you were saying, it's like there's no like right or wrong or whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. We both introverts and extroverts are what they are. It's about kind of how you, I suppose, manage any interactions between two and what you know is right for you, and then being kind of as an introvert, being your own or an extrovert, being your own best friend and doing what you require, and not just going along like I have done so many times in the past with other people
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
what you feel you should do.
Yeah, I think if you're working, I think one of the things that well, there's many things actually about how the world is extrovert right now. The energy is extrovert.
Yeah.
So things like classrooms where you're expected to be part of a group all the time. It's all group work. It's all, an introvert doesn't get time to be on their own, to sit quietly in a corner. Offices, open plan offices,
Mm.
just be my worst nightmare. I honestly would be so exhausted from the energy of all those people. Um, and to see more and more how they're showing that people get their own desk in their own little corner. An introvert needs that. An extrovert having a wall between them and someone else, nightmare.
Yeah.
But you know what, extroverts, you've had it all your own way for far too long. So suck it up. In the nicest possible way, of course. So things like that, I now recognize just how that just doesn't work. And if there's a child that needs space, they're probably more introverted and don't, there's nothing wrong with them. And yet we make them feel like there should be because
Mm.
they're not running around like lunatics and not talking 19 to the dozen and don't always have their hands up in class. And the same as we go through school and into workplaces, it's just recognizing who you are and what sort of workplace would suit you.
Mm.
Um, I don't know about you, Sami, but COVID was a dream for me because I could stay at home. It wasn't a problem. My extrovert husband had to find an excuse to go out every single day, whether that was he's carried on working because he was a doctor. And yeah, it just wasn't okay for him. He does do his alone time, but not in the way I need it. It's not for
Mm.
recharging. It's just because he's discovered something he's going to do on his own. And I'm not, I might get in the way of whatever that is. And it's like when I'm in the kitchen, the whole phase was for massive open plan homes and open plan kitchens. I like to shut myself in the kitchen and have my
Yeah.
time to make the food in this very quite precise way. And being an introvert is only one aspect of us.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's a lot more to us than that. Let's say I've learned a lot from being married to an extrovert. I've learned a lot about how they have a need to talk, and if I ask a question, they talk. I don't need
Yes.
I don't need to be the one filling in the gaps. I just don't. And if
Yeah.
I'm with someone who is obviously more introverted, I might say something, and if they're not ready to speak, I now know to hold my peace and allow them to be who they are.
Makes me actually brings something back to mind about a guy I used to be in a relationship with. His family were very much about like big family gatherings, and like his mum had a big birthday. I can't remember which one. But they had like a big went to a restaurant, had a big like private dining room, loads of people in there. I think there must have been about like 30 people, most of whom I had never met before, overwhelming. Um, and I remember my partner saying, "We've sat you next to a certain relative." Um, and he was like, "I'm sorry, I know she talks a lot." I'm like, "No, it's great. Like, I will just ask her one question and then she's away." And I'm just like, okay, let's just. And then I don't need to kind of worry about interacting with all of these different people or even having to say that much. Um, and that for me is like that's like a bit of a safe space for me in like big gatherings. Like I can just sit there and just have somebody talk at me. It's fine. Like I don't even have to take it in. Just
Yeah. Yeah. So, just to remind everyone who might have found us, this is Talking to Introverts. I'm Denise Oliver, and my co host and partner in business in many ways
yep.
is Sami Blackford. And we both identify as introverts. So, what does that mean for us? Number one, we recognize the need for alone time to recharge. Number two, we're both great listeners. Number three, we can be as lively as anything when it suits us. Just because we identify as introverts doesn't mean we don't like to get out and about and meet people, just the opposite. We just know that if we don't allow ourselves time to recharge our energy on our own, away from anything and everything, then it has a knock-on effect for us.
Mm.
So if any of that, um,
Can I just add before you carry on? I can't remember what number we're up to, either number 4 or number 5. We're
or
not broken.
no,
We don't need fixing.
oh God, no. No, if anything, yeah, once I found out what I was, I felt like I filled up. I was ready to, take ownership of me
Mm,
and to be more of that. And if say I'm out in town and I've already interacted with people and you see me, but I'm walking the opposite way, you don't think you need to flag me down. You don't. And I won't be offended if you don't speak to me. So please don't be offended if I don't speak to you.
yeah.
Because you're so unsociable.
Mm,
I've had that levied at me so many times. I'm not unsociable. I'm quiet. And I recognize when that energy is because life can be very loud when my energy is dissipating.
mm.
So if you want to get to know me, one-on-one is best. Most definitely. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that? We're not broken.
No, we're not broken. Um, I think going on from what you were just saying, kind of touched on, is like also we like to have, a laugh and, a joke, and we can be fun and playful and all of that kind of stuff. It's not always the quiet and alone time and all of that kind of stuff. We are quite fun too.
Ooh, we do have fun. Yeah, we're not broken. We're not unsociable. We do like to have fun. But we both recognize our need to be separate from other
Mm,
people in order to recharge. Um, yeah, sometimes my daughter has her dog. I don't even want to be around the dog. It's that whole energy thing. And introverts are often now recognized as being the more sensory, the more sensitive to what else is going on with other people's energy. And so, in order to be able to give back, if you like, to be around other people's energy, we have to build our own up first.
mm,
We have to make sure we've got plenty of energy coins in our bank in order to um, interact on a regular basis. I did a test recently about where introversion was part of it, and I came out at 79%. I was like, ooh, didn't realize it would be that high. I thought I'd be more in the middle. More is sometimes referred to as centrovert or ambivert,
mm.
where you very much swing between the two. Nope. And it's just like there are times when my husband goes away on golfing holidays and I genuinely lock myself in the house, don't want to see anyone. It's a massive recharge for me, that. And then I can come out and be all singing, all dancing for a while. I'm not going to say how long a while is because it depends who I'm singing and dancing with. Yes. So we wanted to come to you and talk about being an introvert in this very extrovert world and what it's like to enjoy a quiet life, and quiet in the sense of um, I don't know, loving nature, I think, is part of it, and
Yeah.
experiencing sensory type situations on our own. Don't need to be in a group all the time.
Yeah.
And we can spend quite a lot of time together, don't we, now when we're working on things, and yet we both know when enough's enough in a
Yep.
day. We're like, I think we're done now. I'm done. Are you done? I think we're done now. And there's just, what's the word? There's nothing, we just get it, don't we?
Yeah.
Not upset by the other person going, honestly, I'm done now. I've got to go. Because we understand what that's like. That's it. We go and we're happy with that. And we go
Mm.
on with our stuff. And then I think having the capacity with the phones that we have, the interaction we can have, it's great that we can text, message, WhatsApp, whichever platform you're using, and that's all the interaction we require. We don't
Yep.
need to see each other. We don't need to be face to face. We don't need to leave the boundaries of our home in order to have uh, an amazing connection. We just don't need to do that. But we can do that and enjoy that as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you the question. Do you think we're done? I think I'm done. Are you done?
I do think we're done. Yes, I agree with you. I think that's a great way to end the program, actually. I think we're done. So thank you to everyone who finds us, listens to this podcast, talking to introverts. If you identify as an introvert and you know that other people do, but they haven't got a specific platform that that they can enjoy listening to introverts talking about being introverts, that's a lot of introverts, um, then please, we'd love it if you share this with them. So thank you everyone for listening now and in the future. Bye.
Bye.